Okay, this is the second session of our 1000Lands game. We have our normal motley assortment of players. Now, in last session, they explored the Darkling Hills to the southeast of the last city. The last city being the only bastion of civilization, I suppose you could call it. The only survivor in full of the Great War of the Sorcerer Kings, which entirely devastated the lands and presumably the rest of the world. No one really knows. However, the last city was protected by the mage Jeroen, who set up these these standing stones in a circle around the sort of boundaries of the lands, and they pulse with this steady sort of bluish green, this turquoise light, and presumably protect it from hostile magics. Obviously, none of you guys are really powerful mages, so you don't really entirely know how they work, but that's the protection the last city has. As I told you previously, there are rumours floating around that Jeroen's health, because obviously he's been like around for like 100 odd years, that his health is starting to fail, and people are starting to wonder, if he goes, does the protection of the standing stones go as well? But no one really knows yet. It's all just unsubstantiated rumours. Now, unfortunately, at the end of last session, Stilus decided that he wanted to save a bit of cash, so he decided to just sleep rough on the streets after they returned from exploring the Darkling Hills and fighting dire wolves there. Unfortunately, in doing so, he was set upon by a group of villainous thieves who somehow managed to liberate him of all of his possessions. He woke up just as they were removing his armour. Now, Stilus, all you really remember about the thieves, because you were strangely groggy when you woke up, but all you really remember about them is that most of them were hooded and they kept their faces covered. The one you did see, the one that was up close trying to take your armour off, had a black triangle tattooed under his left eye. As the thieves fled, as you were sort of like lurching into wakefulness, they made this strange sort of high-pitched laughing noise. The heroes meet up in the Gilded Carrot, where Stilus bemoans his luck and the loss of his armour. After some discussion, they decide that they don't really want to get the law involved. Copper is a little bit confused why this band of thieves would attempt to steal Silas's armour. After all, it's functional, but it's not of particularly great value. As he's looking at the back of Silas's armour, he notices a small wound on the back of his companion's neck. It looks like someone's pricked him with a pin or something similar.
I've been got at.
Well, either that or you've been sitting really uncomfortably. Let me have a look.
Yeah.
Okay, you look at the... I hesitate to call it a wound since it's so small, but you look at the wound and you suspect, with your sort of particular skill set, Copper, that it was made by some sort of dart. And although obviously some time has passed since Stilus had the misfortune to be robbed, you can just about make out there's a very faint trace of what appears to be like a clear liquid around the edge of the wound. But it's almost dried up, it's sort of like semi-congealing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why you feel so groggy. Dart. They didn't want any kind of violent reaction, shall we say.
I've been poisoned.
Well, I don't know if it's poison or if it was just a bit of a knockout serum, but there is still a little bit of a trace in it there, so maybe it's best to stop at an apothecary.
Stilus asks Copper what the situation is with the local thieves guild, but Copper's busy musing over the mention of the triangular tattoo. He's sure that he's heard something about this somewhere before, but isn't quite sure where. Copper suggests that maybe they should stop in a tavern. They might find some more information there.
Seems an awful lot of trouble to go through to actually use whatever extract this was to knock a man out.
Yeah, they could have broken into any of the fancy townhouses, but no, they chose Stilus.
I mean, I could have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
The heroes spend some time discussing what their next move could be. There are suggestions about asking around the local lowlives, investigating taverns. Briefly, they consider splitting up to check out all the places at once, but decide against it because there is safety in numbers. Then Stilus has an idea.
I mean, is there worth putting up a bit of a notice? Or doing a bit of thieves' cant or something. Is there some? Can't you pull a few strings, Copper? You know, sort of finagle a bit of information out of some of those ne'er-do-wells that I've seen you hanging around with lately.
Well, look, there are a lot of taverns in the city, and I think it would be a waste of time going around every single one of them. Again, I've heard maybe one or two mentions.
The group decides to head to the nearest apothecarian to examine the wound inflicted on Stilus. On the way there, written in thieves' cant, Copper leaves a number of messages dotted around which say,
anyone who has seen the hooded laughing hyenas with triangle tattoos under their eyes, leave a message for Copper at a specific tavern.
The group then asks around the other locals where the nearest apothecarian is, and they are soon directed to the place of employ of a man called Ober, who is reputed to be an apothecary of note. They approach a small building with bushels of herbs hanging up outside and enter into it. There are bolts of fabric in the Stygian style decorating the building. You can see he's a dark-skinned man with a close-shaved head, short sort of waxed beard. He's wearing robes. You can see he's busy with a pestle and mortar, sort of working away. He's got some small spectacles perched on his forehead, and he's grinding up some herbs as you walk in. He doesn't seem to notice you over the of his pestle and mortar.
Excuse me.
His glasses fall down as he looks up onto his face, and he says, yes, can I help you?
You could potentially help my friend here. He's had a bit of an incident in the night with a potentially poisoned dart.
Well, I'm terribly sorry to hear that. Obviously, my services do not come for free. I do have a living to make. I'm sure you understand.
Yeah, of course we understand that. But would you mind taking a look for us?
Yes, if you're willing to pay my price, then of course. The initial fee just for a cursory examination would only be 5 gold pieces.
That's fine by me. And I just toss them without hesitation.
Ober examines the residue from the wound using some chemicals to analyse the compound, and he quickly pronounces it as being the poison of the blue lotus.
Oh, what does that do?
He says, well, the good news for you, sir, is it's not fatal by any means. However, it is a potent liqueur for rendering someone unconscious. Very quick, very fast acting. The effects only last for an hour or so, give or take, depending on the constitution of the person who's been affected by it. And there's no serious side effects beyond a little bit of grogginess, the occasional spot of double vision. But if you wanted to put someone to sleep quickly, just like that, blue lotus powder is what you'd use. After some further discussion with Ober, the heroes realise that the very person who poisoned Stilus in fact bought the poison from Ober's apothecarian. Ober explains that the man who had a strange tattoo under his eye of a triangle told him that he was going to dilute the substance and use it for humane pest disposal. And as a money-loving businessman, Ober didn't ask him any further questions. He claims that this was the first time he'd seen this person in the store and that he didn't notice any other people with him. Stilus asks what the man was wearing and is told rough travelling clothes of the type that many people in the last city wear.
It might have to be the taverns then in that case, boys.
I'll tell you what, Governor, if you see this geezer again, it'd be worth your while letting us know, if you know what I'm saying.
And hypothetically speaking, were I to see this fellow again, how worth my while would it be to remember more about him?
I'll while Silas is like pondering this, I'll like slide up to our apothecary friend, and I'll like put down, let's say, 15 gold on a table, or like in his hand if he's just standing around.
Okay, he slides the gold out and says, "Very well, should I see the fellow again, where might I contact you?" The heroes tell Ober the name of the tavern that they are currently staying in and say a message can be left for them there. He says, "Ah, yes, sir, the Gilded Carrot, I know it well."
Seriously, we hang out at the Gilded Carrot.
It was cheap, all right.
As the group is getting ready to depart the Apothecarian, Willava asks about buying the remaining 2 doses of full-strength Blue Lotus poison from Ober. Ober is willing to sell, and Willava hands him 40 gold pieces, in return receiving 2 small glass phials containing a turquoise liquid. Willava asks Ober whether he has any other sort of potions of a more arcane bent. The Stygian responds dismissively, saying that he is an apothecary who deals with herbs and lotions, that he doesn't deal with magic at all. He's simply someone who understands the natural properties of plants and how they can be harvested and used.
Well, it works like magic, I know that.
Willava asks about where Ober acquired the ingredients to make the Blue Lotus poison from, and is told that it is made from the Blue Lotus flower that only grows in the Serpent Swamps, and very few people ever travel there, making it quite difficult to get hold of. He's also told that 20 flowers are required to make 1 small dose of the poison, and that the flowers have to be in pristine condition for the lotion to take full effect. Willava asks how much he would be willing to pay if they procured some of the Blue Lotus for him, and finds out that a price of 15 gold pieces would be awarded for each dose of the poison that Ober was able to make from whatever ingredients they collected. They thank him and are about to head on their way. Ober says that if he thinks of anything more that they might be able to acquire for him, he will let them know and contact them at the Gilded Carrot. The group then leaves and decides to press on with their investigation of the nearby taverns. That is absolutely fine, and indeed, as you're wandering to the nearest tavern, you do see a lot of like street children and various sort of beggars, etc. around. Obviously, you can choose to ask them. Now, obviously, I'm going to ask one of you to make a dice roll to see how well you do with this. It will be based on charisma, so it's up to you, like who you let do the talking, really.
Not me then.
I'm pretty good with the talking.
Simpson's a face man, isn't he? And you might be able to turn on a little bit of your religious intimidation to get them on the straight and narrow.
Children, come to sense.
Nice and fast.
Okay, so as you're sort of asking around, you eventually locate what appears to be a beggar or a vagrant. He's sitting on like a dirty mat that he's sort of spread out onto the streets. You can see he's got like a few possessions next to him, although calling them possessions is quite a stretch. It's like a few broken pieces of tat and other stuff he's scavenged. There's what appears to be a chipped sort of pewter tankard on the floor in front of him on the sort of cobbles of the street, and as you guys are walking past, he's like, "Spare some change for an old blind man," and he sort of like reaches out, goes like that, finds the cup and shakes it. You can hear there's like a jingling. There's obviously something inside it already.
So are we going with 1 GP is 10 SP and
yes,
100 CP?
Yeah, standard.
I'm gonna give him 5 silver.
Okay, you drop it into the cup, and he sort of like he holds it up, and then he like shakes it by his ear. You can see he's got like a long straggly beard. There's a couple of flies buzzing around him. He's obviously not bathed in quite some time. Mm-hmm. He says, "Oh, bless you, sir, bless you."
Yeah, and I'll squat down and I'll reach over to touch his forehead and like draw something on it in the dirt.
Okay, as you sort of like touch your finger to his forehead, he's tries to sort of scramble away from you a bit. He's obviously obviously he's not seen you going like that. He's quite surprised when he feels your finger touch his forehead.
Yeah, and I just say to him like, just
scared the bloke to death. He has a heart failure.
Yeah, he's like, he's like, take what you want. I have nothing. I'm just a poor old beggar.
It's all right, bruv. Don't panic.
Yes, nothing to fear. I think I've startled you unnecessarily. For that, I apologize.
He says, "Oh, no, that's fine." He says, "You can't be too careful, though. Life on the streets is extremely dangerous. There's always someone trying to steal something off another person."
Yeah, tell me about it,
Stilus.
Get out of it.
And I'll just to confirm.
Don't touch him again.
No, I'm not gonna touch him. I'm gonna reach over and like wave my hand over his eyes.
Yeah, you wave your hand over his eyes. You can see like his eyes are sort of like fairly like milky, almost like someone who's got like massive amounts of cataracts, and he's just staring straight ahead. You go like that with your hand, he doesn't like react at all. Mm-hmm. You see him sort of like move his head slightly because obviously he's felt the air movement as you're going like that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I do have a friend who also lives on the street, and they had this exact thing happen to them not that long ago.
Yeah, so unfortunately, such things are becoming all too commonplace now. People have no respect for other people's possessions anymore.
I'd like to help restore some of that respect. Would you perhaps be able to? Do you spend your time here? Do you move about?
Well, unfortunately, the guards take a very dim view of vagrancy as they see it. They've no respect for what I might have been or what I might have done previously. They look at me and all they see is a filthy, blind beggar seeking to bilk money out of people. So when I hear the guards coming, I normally get moved on, or I move on before they can get to me.
Mm-hmm. Would you perhaps be able to place a very particular laugh, perhaps at nighttime?
See his brow creases, and he says that, and he like leans forward. His like milky eyes and his smelly breath and rotten teeth getting like closer to your face, and he says, "A laugh, you say? What sort of laugh? I hear lots of people laughing."
I'll like clean my throat a couple of times and as best I can to imitate the. You guys described it as like hyena-like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. High-pitched laughing. Yeah.
So that's what I heard. So I'll just go like. I'll like imitate it back to him.
As you start doing that, he looks like extremely worried, and he goes quite pale. And then he holds a shaking hand up to his lips, and he says, "Yes, but please, I understand." He says, "I have heard the laugh that you're speaking of. From what I hear, I believe it is a gang of thieves going by the name of the Dark Eye."
That's him. I'm telling you, Simpson.
I've heard that they each have a tattoo on their faces to identify them. rather like a street gang might have. Obviously, I cannot see them, but that is what I've heard.
Do you... I presume, since you know the laugh, do you know their whereabouts, where they might be staking their turf, or perhaps where they stay?
I've heard that laugh twice, both times in the early evening. It was when I was begging for money in the streets outside the Hungry Hound. Armed with this knowledge from Scotir the beggar, the group intend to proceed to the Hungry Hound and look for the thieves there. Samson gives Scotir a few silver pieces in his begging cup, and the grateful beggar attempts to offer him a small wooden icon of one of the Nordlander gods in return.
Yeah, so I'll take his hands, I'll close them around the hammer, and say, good friend, it is probably your god that brought me to you, so this is something you want to take with you. It probably will serve you well, as it has today.
He takes it back and sort of puts it around his neck, and then he says, well, you still have my thanks. That is all else I have to give. As the group prepares to depart, Silas has a last question to ask Scotir the beggar.
Just out of interest, I couldn't help overhearing you said, well, you sort of hinted at better times before you was blind and that. What was it you was up to exactly then?
He says, well, yes, I actually used to be a blacksmith back in my youth. Unfortunately, and he holds up his arms, which have got virtually no fat or muscle on. They look quite emaciated. And he says, unfortunately, age has robbed me of the strength to work in the forge. And then, well, when the gods saw fit to take my sight from me, I could no longer work, and I had no family to support me. And this is how you find me as I am now, a poor wretch of a man begging on the street for a few copper coins.
Yeah, and I bet they all wanted to know you when you was a blacksmith, eh?
Oh, of course. My work was renowned for its quality, but that was back in my younger days. I don't like to think of it too much. That my people believe there is no point bemoaning what is the past, and one must simply try to survive in the present the best one can. As the heroes travel to the Hungry Hound, Copper tells them what he knows about the Thieves Guild, or the Last Guild as they are sometimes called. He now recalls that the Dark Eye was once a part of that organisation. However, at some point in time, the leader of the Dark Eye proclaimed himself the King of Thieves and accused the Guild and the Last City of abandoning the world outside, remaining safe behind their protective bubble as the rest of the world crumbled into darkness. He advocated the Guild becoming more active and venturing outside the city. When they refused, the disagreement turned violent, and the leader of the Dark Eye and his followers left to form a splinter group and disappeared for parts unknown. However, the group they formed, which later became known as the Dark Eye, is still encountered sporadically, operating inside the Last City.
Interesting that they're like-minded to us in terms of exploration and
I think the geezer's got a fair point, just saying. Whew.
Silas and Copper continue their conversation about why it was that he got robbed by these Dark Eye thieves. Will-Aver is looking on impatiently, eager to get to the Hungry Hound and get the matter resolved so he can continue his quest for arcane goods and produce. Meanwhile, Samson is musing about the good old days that he's heard of in legend about old Stygia, where crimes were punished severely and the crime rate was extremely low. He thinks back to one particular tale where a person was buried in the sand, their face smothered in honey, and they were left for the giant desert ants to pick the flesh from their bones. He smiles as he thinks about the good old days, and the party continues walking.
Yeah, the OSR, the original Stygian revival.
What the fuck happened since I left the room?
Okay, so you guys have had this conversation. Willeva's looking a little bit impatient. Samson's like musing about the old days when they'd have quite happily like tortured criminals and like they wouldn't have made the same mistake again, assuming they survived. What's the plan now?
To the
Hungry Hound, I think.
Hungry Hound.
Yeah, the Hungry Hound. That was the last place they were spotted.
Reaching the Hungry Hound, it's decided that Copper should inconspicuously head into the tavern and case the joint before they move in and attempt to deal with the Dark Eye thieves, assuming that they're in there. As they head towards what they originally think is going to be a building, they see that it's actually a large green and white marquee tent in the style that might be seen in a circus. Copper heads up to the tent, slips inside, and finds that there are numerous canvas partitions inside, forming small booths to give the patrons their privacy. Each booth has a table and a few seats. The bar is a simple affair, being a bench with some kegs behind it. Moving around between the tables, asking people if they want drinks or anything else, is a tall, fairly athletic man with amber hair tied back in a long ponytail. Standing behind the bar is a young woman with a rosy complexion, quite small. However, Copper's attention is drawn to the fact that the woman's ears are ever so slightly pointed.
As I approach the bar, I get an idea. I quickly nip into an empty booth and get out a little, like, sort of pencil. It's kind of like an eyeliner pencil to sort of conceal my eyes in the dark. But with this, I'm going to actually draw a triangle underneath my left eye.
Nice.
Just to see if they react in any kind of way, if anybody in particular comes up to speak to me.
Okay, now you don't, no one in particular comes up to speak to you, but you do see that most of the patrons, aside from when they're ordering drinks, they seem to sort of like stay in their booth. The conversation's like very hushed. It seems like privacy is quite like a big thing in here, which is a bit weird given that it's like a big tent. But most of the, if you had to describe most of the clientele of the Hungry Hound, you say they seem a bit secretive, a bit sort of private and withdrawn. You can see that the lanterns on most of the tables are like turned down quite low, so you can just about make out like the silhouettes of people like huddled around the tables having like quiet discussions, the occasional slurp of ale.
Okay. I order a wine if they've got one.
Okay, yep, you head up to the bar. The young woman behind there says, "Oh, good evening, sir. What can I get for you?"
Any kind of red wine?
She says, well, we do have a bottle of a stunning book behind here, and she lifts it out, she blows on it, like a bit of dust comes off the bottle, and then she says, I'm afraid it's the only wine we've got. There's not much call for wine, really, and it's white, I'm afraid. Is that all right? I've been told it's quite nice.
Let me have a sniff of it, in any case.
She like pops the cork off, holds the bottle out to you. If you take, you give it a smell. It's got quite a sort of smoky sort of smell to it. And you know that sort of smell when you walk into a greenhouse where someone's been like growing tomatoes. That sort of greenish smell. It has a bit of a sort of background of that to it.
Okay. Yeah, go on. I'll have a little tipple of it.
She says, well, it's 8 silver pieces for a glass, or 2 gold pieces and change of 4 for the bottle. Up to you, sir.
Well, I said a little one, and I put down the 8 silver pieces.
She reaches over and she says, although she said a glass, she actually just puts like a slightly smaller wooden tankard in front of you and pours it. You see this like white sparkling wine like fizz into this tiny little like wooden tankard, and she slides it over to you before like thumbing the cork back into the bottle and putting it back on the crate next to her.
Before you go, kind lady, were you working here last night at all?
Oh yes, I'm here most nights. I help Ulrich run the place. And she jerks her thumb over in the direction of the guy who's wandering around.
I wouldn't mind speaking to him too, but you didn't see any of my compatriots in here last night, did you?
I'm sorry, what was that?
You didn't see any of my compatriots in here last night, did you?
She looks around a little bit nervously and she says, I'm not sure what you mean, sir.
As in people with my complexion, and I kind of flex my eyebrows a little bit to try and get more visible.
Don't do that, though. Don't do that, whatever you do.
No, I wasn't going to do that.
She leans a little closer and then she says, well, if there's nothing else you need, sir, and she gestures with her head to a booth at like the far end of the tent. Well, if there's nothing else I can help you with, sir, then I'm sure I've got other customers I need to deal with.
Yep, it's just the wine, thank you.
She pulls you another glass of the wine and then says, there you go, sir, on the house.
Ah, very good, very good. Maybe I'll see you later. Head up into the booth.
She goes a little bit sort of a little bit rosy cheeked as you say that, and as you're sort of walking away, you can hear her stammering, going, "Well, I don't know about that, sir. I'm not sure if that's right and proper."
That just leaves me a little confused now.
And then she leads you to go about your business. After getting some strange contradictory hints from the woman behind the bar, Copper sits and looks around the place for a little while longer, not seeing any obvious signs of the dark eye thieves. He leaves and returns to where his companions are waiting down the street, explaining about the confusing encounter with the woman behind the bar. Stilus asks whether Copper checked all the booths and whether he's sure that there was no one in there. Copper, having had a bit of wine, thinks that perhaps he did miss a booth or two, but it should be safe for them all to go in. They shouldn't immediately arouse any suspicion. The group are about to head into the Hungry Hound when a drunken man leading an old broken-down horse emerges from behind the back of the tavern and begins making his way down the street. Stilus thinks that this behaviour is extremely suspicious, and after a few moments' discussion, a plan is concocted where Samson will engage the man in conversation, and whilst he's distracted, Copper will attempt to rifle through the saddlebags hanging from his old nag and find out if he has anything suspicious inside. As Samson starts talking to this man about his Stygian gods, it becomes obvious that the man is a Nordlander and that he is extremely drunk, and he begins ranting about the positive attributes of the various Nordic gods, as well as regaling Samson with a tale of what a marvellous and stout woman his wife is, and that he'd rather have her holding a rolling pin with him than any warrior in the land. As this is going on, Copper rifles through his bags and finds a loaf of bread, a little bit of rope, a couple of bottles of beer, and a few other bits of clothing, nothing innately suspicious. Copper pockets the bread, the bottles, and the rope, and they let the man head on his way. Entering the Hungry Hound, the group sit down in one of the booths around one of the small wooden tables. The athletic-looking man with the amber ponytail walks over to them and asks them if they'd like a drink or anything else.
Anybody stump up for a beer for us? Being as I'm... I have got a bit of money because Copper kindly donated some of the stash. So yeah, I'll have an ale, please, Squire.
He says, well, we've got the curved shark, we've got yawning squirrel, and we've got the house.
Oh, give me some yawning squirrel. That's a classic.
He says, right, you are. 1 yawning squirrel.
Yeah, same. I'll have squirrel. Yeah.
3, yeah.
3 yawning squirrel, and he says, what about your Stygian friend?
He'll have water.
He's a little picky.
I'll nod at the water.
He says, right, you are. He heads over, comes back with these 3 tankards full of what appears to be a sort of blackish stout. He puts it down on the table and he says, well, that's 5 coppers apiece.
Anybody?
I'll pay him for everyone.
Okay, so he takes out the 15 copper off you. He says, if you need anything else, just give either me or Dior, and he gestures at the woman behind the bar. Give us a shout. And he heads back over to the bar.
Just before you go, mate, I won't take up too much of your time. What's with the tent then?
He looks at you for a bit and he says, well, it's leftovers from like my previous life before. I don't really like to talk about it too much, but it's leftovers from my previous life from before I was a tavern keeper.
What, was you in the circus? Was you a bit of an acrobat or something? Were you?
He says, yeah, that's right. He says, back before this started settling a bit, back when I was a young lad, I used to be quite the athlete. And
well, you said it still got the arms there, mate. I see them all.
He says, well, you got to be strong for like heaving these barrels. And he says, no, but well, when I left and I wanted to go into business, my friend Dio, she suggested we open a tavern. And when obviously buildings, they're expensive to buy. I mean, land's difficult to come by. So I thought, well, why don't we take my old tent, sling that up, find a space, it's a lot cheaper to buy a permit to put a tent up than it is to build a building or rent a building. And it works just as well. And it's a bit of a unique selling point, to be honest. There's no other tavern in the city that's like ours. So if anyone, even if people don't know the name of the Hungry Hound, all they've got to do is say, like, oh, head down the street, look for the green and white striped tent, and there we are.
Yeah, well, true, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and you can always up sticks and move if it gets a bit rough.
That's it, exactly.
Which I heard it has been getting a bit rough around these parts. Have you been getting any trouble?
He says, well, not us personally, but I've heard of people getting in a few scrapes. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but recently everything seems to be going downhill. I mean, everything's been fine for the last few years, but recently, yeah, we're in about robbings, muggings, all sorts of strange people about. And then he leans a bit closer and he says, then there's the rumours that, like, oh, the protection on the city might be failing, although I don't know anything about that. But like, obviously people are like worried about it. There's a lot of whispers and a lot of talking about it going on.
Have you had any strange people in particular?
He says, well, we have got there is a group of people in one of the booths at the back, and he like gestures to like one of the booths. He says, all hooded up, like, well, apart from one of them, he says, but that's not the strangest thing. And he leans a bit closer, and his voice goes a bit lower into a bit of a hush whisper. He says, well, when they came up to the bar, one of the couldn't see any of their faces apart from this one lad. They're all covered in these hoods. The one who like paid for the beers, well, he put his hand out and he says, oh, ever so hairy his hand was. Never seen anything like it. He says, now, I'm a Nordlander. I've seen some hairy ass men in my time, but he says, no, it was almost like furry. I've never seen anything like it in all my days.
That's a bit weird.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
you probably want to keep your eye on them.
He says, well, yeah, they've not caused any trouble, and to be honest, as long as people don't cause trouble, we pride ourselves on like not interfering with people's business. Realising that they need to check the Dark Eye thieves are still in the booth that was indicated by Ulrich, the owner of the Hungry Hound, Welava takes it on himself to wander down the centre of the tent, peeking into various booths as he goes, posing as someone who has just arrived at the inn and is looking for an unoccupied space in which to sit. Okay, that's fine. Roll me a d6.
6.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. As you head down and you're sort of looking around the bit, are you going on your own? Are you taking anyone else with you?
I'm kind of going on my own, just trying not to draw attention to ourselves.
Okay, as you're heading down there, remind me how Willava's dressed at the moment.
He's kind of dressed in kind of red robes. I would say medium quality, like not tatters, but also not like high quality. And would kind of be carrying his staff and kind of looking relatively normal-ish, I guess. But reasonably well dressed, or medium well dressed, I guess.
Absolutely fine. As you sort of head down to the far end of the tent, you're sort of pantomiming, like looking in the booth. Sort of like occasionally you see a couple of people in there, and you're like, "Oh, sorry," and you like move on to the next booth. Just a bit like verisimilitude to like your portrayal. As you head down towards the back, you do see in the booth indicated there are what appear to be 5 people wearing these like dark hooded robes, like hoods pulled up over their faces so you can barely see them.
Gangsters.
They're sat around this table. There's 5 of them, and then there is an additional guy who's like not wearing a hood. He has a fairly sort of young-looking face, like small, like goatee beard. You can see he does have the triangle under his left eye, and he's talking to the others, although they don't really say anything. They're staying silent. And he says, "Okay, we'll finish this round of beers, and then we'll get back to the hoon. We've got what we came for." He looks over at one of the hooded figures and he says, "How many did you leave on the cart out back?" At which point the figure doesn't respond verbally, but reaches forward and like holds up a hand indicating like 2 fingers. As the hand moves forward, you see the sleeve falls back a bit, and you see this sort of furry, long-nailed hand sort of go like that. Having located the dark-eyed thieves and heard their conversation about the wagon they have out back, Willava quickly makes his way back to the booth near the front of the tent where his companions are seated and tells them all about what he has seen and heard. They decide that rather than tangle with the 6 men inside the Hungry Hound, they're first going to slip around the back and look at the wagon to see if they can locate any of the items that the thieves have purloined, and because taking on 2 wagon guard would be far easier and less dangerous to bystanders than engaging in an out-and-out brawl with these 6 people in the middle of a tavern. Heading around the side of the tent, they see a cart tied up out back with 2 horses and a canvas covering. 2 of these strange hooded individuals sit on the driver's plate. The group quickly concoct a plan where they plan to use the 2 beers that they took from the drunken Nordlander, dose them up with Blue Lotus, at which point Stilus will pose as a friendly face and will offer a couple of drinks to the no doubt parched people sitting on the cart. Once the 2 hooded figures have felt the effects of the Blue Lotus, they will be free to look at whatever is in the cart and decide how to proceed from there. Copper says they can do it, but they better be quick because their friends will soon be finishing their drink and coming out of the pub, and they don't want to be caught in the act.
Yeah, okay. So I'll start talking to him, and then you just come along in a bit. Yeah.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Cool. Right, did you get that, John? Then.
Yep. So you're approaching these guys. So what do you say as you approach them?
All right, gents. How are you doing?
They don't speak, but one of them turns his like hooded face to look towards you. You can't really see much of it because he's shadowed by this like big hood, but you get a vague impression, almost like canine muzzle underneath the hood.
All right, not the talkative types then.
Something that sounds like a low sort of rumbled growl comes from under the hood of the one nearest to you.
And I'll be sort of like looking around.
Yeah, I'll be I'll be walking, and I'll just make up a name on the spot just in case. Hey, Yaxley, what are you doing out here?
I was just having a chat with these fellas. Well, I was trying to have a chat, but they're not too talkative. Perhaps they need a couple of beers to sort of get them more into the talkative spirit, like, you know. Stuck out here on a wagon, nobody's looking after them. Hey, lads, I'm sure you'd rather be in there getting a few beers in. I'll pass them up. I don't need mine now. I've had enough. Like, you know, just pass it up to these fellas. I feel sorry for them sat out here in the cold.
Yeah, they've probably got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, can one of you guys make me a charisma roll? I'll give you the choice of which one of you it is.
I'll do that.
A little bit of a dump start for me.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, so there's the two of them have like an exchange of what sound like sort of muffled, like growling noises, and then the one nearest to you, Silas, turns back to you and he's like, "Yes, I am a bit thirsty."
Yeah, don't blame me. Yeah, drink up, lads. Yeah, pleasure's all mine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you know, you don't want to be stuck out here in the cold while you.
He reaches out, takes the two bottles, and like hands one to his fellow, and they both like thump the corks off them and start like chugging it down. As one of them goes like that, his hood falls back, and you can see this almost like dog-like face covered in like dark brown, almost black fur, like a muzzle. As he sort of holds the beer up, there's like foam running down the side of it. He's like guzzling this beer back. His companion takes a sniff of it and then starts chugging his back as well.
Yeah, drink up, lads. Plenty more where that come from.
Okay, you wait for a few moments and they sort of guzzle down these ales and like sling the bottles on the floor. Then like, after a few moments you notice them sort of like...
Yeah, when they start doing that, I'm going to start slipping around the back.
I'll pick up them bottles. I'll pick up them bottles off the floor as well, John. Don't want to leave any evidence laying around.
That's fine. After a few moments, like their heads slump on their chests, and you can hear like...
Nice.
Okay, Silas, can you roll me a d6, please? Anything but a 1 or a 2 in your grand.
We're grand.
Okay,
Just about.
the guys inside are still drinking.
Nice.
Oh, they must have got a really big pint.
Either that or perhaps...
Right, let's see what's in this wagon.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So you sort of like lift the canvas on the back of the wagon. Obviously, you don't have to make any rolls. These guys are asleep. Anyone else who saw you would probably just think, oh, they're just like loading a wagon. There's nothing suspicious about what you're doing. You open the sort of canvas flap up on the wagon. You can see what appear to be a number of like Hessian sacks. You can also see that they all appear to be like quite full, bulging almost.
Let's just swipe it, get out of here, and then figure out what it is later.
They are
Wagon
pretty
and
full,
all?
though.
Yeah, you sort of reach out,
Take the
Copper, and sort of
wagon
like test one, and like, it's quite heavy.
I'm gonna loosen the rope of one of them just to see what the hell is in these things.
Okay, you open one of the Hessian sacks, and there's a mixture of what appear to be various coins, copper, silver, and gold inside. Obviously, you've experience with coins. You sort of like lift it a little bit, and you're like, judging from the weight of it, there must be easily over like 200 coins in this big sack.
Yeah, that'll settle it. Let's just grab it. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, but I need your help. This is really heavy.
Yeah, I'll grab it. Pass it to me. Yeah.
No, should we just take the wagon? Let's just take the lot.
Yeah, but in it a bit more subtle, we could take a bag each and split up. How many bags are there? Oh, it's 2 bags, isn't it?
There is, let's see, 1, 2. There are 3 large Hessian sacks.
3 large bags. Okay.
I mean, I'll tell you what you could do, Will. We could chuck these guys in the wagon, drive it off, and somehow make it look like they nicked it.
Yeah. Okay, I can do that, and you can take a sack each and disappear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Samson, can you please roll me a d6? Anything but a 1, 2, or a 3, and you're fine.
Why do you do this to me, John? Oh, well.
You are absolutely grand. Obviously, this last round and whatever additional conversation they've had is taking longer than previously expected.
Cool. So I will push the 2 creatures into the back of the wagon and just start moving the wagon out onto the street.
That's absolutely fine. You unhitch the horses. You give like a jolt of the reins. They slowly start trotting. You can hear like the of their hooves on the cobbles. The wagon creaks a little as the wooden wheels start turning, but it moves slowly out onto the streets.
Okay.
And now, if I'm correct, you 3 have like taken a sack each off the wagon. Is that correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no problems. Okay, so Willava, you're on this wagon. You've rode it out onto the street. You've got the 2 creatures, members of the Dark Eye, in the back. You can hear them snoring like softly, and obviously it was like a full dose you gave each of them, so they're probably going to be asleep for quite some time.
Okay, so I want to move like a good, I don't know, mile or 2 miles away from the tent.
Absolutely fine.
And I will find somewhere in one of the poorer districts, somewhere kind of subtle, and I will stop the wagon. So there's nothing else in the wagon, just these 2 creatures.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So I will do a quick search of the 2 creatures, see if they have anything on them that was different to the Hessian sacks.
They don't appear to have anything particularly on them. They do both have a short sword.
Okay. Do I know what these creatures are?
You can make me an intelligence check if you wish.
I very much would.
Or you can use wisdom if you prefer.
I know. Okay. Success, finally.
Yeah, that's the brains of the outfit right there.
Okay, now you're not entirely sure what these creatures are, but obviously, being sort of an arcanist like yourself, you've sort of kept in touch with any like strange rumours coming into the city from outside, because obviously you're interested in anything that might pertain to like, arcane learning. You have heard rumours that when the Sorcerer War sort of kicked off and tides of magic rolled over the land, there were rumours that there were like whole swathes of people who were altered by the sort of wild magic running out of control as the Sorcerer Kings battled each other. So perhaps these are humans who've been changed somehow. You're not entirely certain, but that'd be your best guess.
Okay. Okay, so I think I will leave them there, and I will vanish back to the Gilded Carrot, and share the loot.
Okay, so
unless everyone else has gone somewhere else.
So whilst Willava's doing that, obviously you 3, you've each got one of these Hessian sacks. They're very heavy. You're not going to be like running anywhere or moving quickly while you're carrying these. So what are you guys planning on doing?
We could hand this over to the last guild. I mean, they're going to have other things they've hoarded. It's a good place to keep stuff that's hoarded.
Okay, so Silas and Samson, Copper's suggesting handing it over to the last guild. What do you guys think about that?
For safekeeping, you mean?
Yeah, for safekeeping.
You want to give the gold to thieves for safekeeping.
I'm a thief.
Okay.
Here's an
Well,
idea.
let's not be hasty.
What
We
if
have-
we...
we
what
have
if
got-
we... Yep, well, you go.
No, you go, mate.
What if we give at least some of this to the guild, and then we let the Dark Eye know?
I think we'll be a little bit vulnerable if that happens.
Well, I'm happy to change my mind over this matter, as it would. I mean, first of all, we need to work out exactly how much we're talking about. So we've obviously got a few coin here. We need to find somewhere, I think, a little bit secretive, suss it out properly, and yeah, if you're saying the guild is going to not be very happy if they get wind of this and they haven't had their dues, fair enough. But we have got things we need to do, and it's going to take money to do it. For instance, I want to cover the cost of my gear so that I can get back out there and catch me some wolves and monsters and stuff like that, and get out of this poxy town. Because
Okay. At this point, Copper, can you please roll me a d6? You need a 5 or a 6. Yeah, they're still talking inside.
let's head off. Go our separate ways and meet up at the Gilded Carrot. And I'm going to get myself a room, because I ain't sleeping on the streets no more, and that's a fact.
You learned your lesson. Rookie mistake.
Yeah, rookie mistake.
Okay, I suppose we disperse then, John.
Okay, that's not a problem. So all of you, through your various means, you make your way back to the Gilded Carrot. It's a fairly peaceful little tavern. It has a bit of a reputation as like some of the what the people who consider themselves to be like philosophers and sort of like intelligentsia of the city sort of meet there, which is probably why Will Ava's so keen to get back there, because it's his sort of people. But it's a fairly small tavern, fairly clean, nothing too extravagant, but you know, it's nice as far as these things go. As you walk in, you can see the owner, Theon, and his daughter, Leanna, who you've probably spoken to on previous occasions when you've been staying here. They're mixing with the clientele. It's a far more sort of, I suppose, standard tavern. You know, benches set out, tables, chairs, etc. A few rooms for rent upstairs. Nothing particularly untoward, but you all meet there around a table. Please continue with your conversation. You've got your Saxo goodies with you.
So I suggest that we maybe move into one of the rooms and don't discuss our business in the common room.
Yeah.
Okay. So assuming we subsequently move on to a one of the rooms, I suggest that we should count out the gold, see how much there is, and then make a decision about what to do with it.
Once we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys get a room. Obviously, you've all paid for like your sort of board during the downtime, so you don't need to worry about that. As you head up to the room, you like empty these sacks out. In one of the sacks, you find all of Silas's gear.
Oh, my stuff!
In the second sack, there, as you like count them out quickly, Copper, there are 84 copper pieces, 89 silver pieces, and 86 gold pieces.
Dang!
And in the third sack, there are what appear to be 4 gemstones. 3 of them are like fairly small, sort of like that. One of them is this like massive emerald, basically about the size of a fist. You reckon that's got to be worth at least a cool thou, Copper?
What?
I just immediately, when it comes out of the bag, I'm just like, this isn't something we probably want to deal with. It obviously belongs to someone who is fairly wealthy and probably looking to get it back, and we don't necessarily want that kind of attention.
Perhaps there's a reward.
As you're saying that, Samson, you finish emptying the bag out. Inside that bag, as well as the gems, there is what appears to be a sort of copper or bronze necklace, which you think is probably of Stygian origin based on the sort of hieroglyphs and designs on it. That has a similar sort of emerald set in it. You know, you'd like wear it around your neck. Probably. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just like, is like, are there two like fist-sized emeralds in the bag?
Indeed. One is set in this bronze necklace. Copper, you reckon that the additional sort of like bronze necklace would probably add at least like 200 gold to the worth of it. And as you're like emptying the bag, being like, shit, what else is in here, Samson? What appears to be a small clay, sort of a little tiny clay urn with a wax stopper falls out and like dunk onto the ground.
I think they might have actually robbed a Stygian tomb, or at least a grave.
Then why did they nick your armor?
No, they're just chances, I reckon. But maybe not. Maybe there could be something to it. But loads of money.
Is there any inscription on the waxed sealed container, John?
There doesn't appear to be, and it's quite plain. It doesn't look like, you know, the sort of the canoptic jars or anything like that Stygians use. It looks more like a small like drinking vessel, effectively. Although it's unusual for one of them to be like sealed with like a wax stopper. But as you sort of lift it up, you can hear there's like liquid swishing around inside it.
You're not thinking of opening that, are you, Simpson?
No.
Yes, he is.
Oh no, I was, but there's a liquid inside, and I don't know why that would be. Still, the fact remains: these emeralds are incredibly large. This isn't something I've. Do you have someone who could, you think, Copper, even safely, how do you call it, fence this?
Oh yeah, I know quite a few, and I was just thinking, you know, if you want to get rid of them, fine, but we should do it with a profit. That's what fences are for. Having said that, I think we should at least give some of this to our friend Scotier.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, I don't mind looking after Scotier. He's done us a big favour here, hasn't he?
Yeah, without him.
You don't need to know why, does he?
Nope.
But we don't want to go splashing the money around necessarily, do we? Drawing attention to ourselves.
I mean, with your sort of like knowledge of the sort of fencing, etc., Copper, you're pretty sure that like the smaller gems and obviously the coins, yeah, no problems. The drinking vessel, again, it's a fairly plain, simple drinking vessel. No, you'd have no problems getting rid of that. Obviously, the two massive like emeralds, they stand out a bit more, especially the one that's set in the jewellery. That looks like it's probably like quite a unique piece, and that'd be harder to fence.
Okay.
Now, what we could do is fence everything else, all of the small stuff, and we could potentially hang on to the gems for a number of weeks. Or else we could, I think if we fence the gems, we should probably make some sort of contribution to the Thieves Guild.
Yeah.
So at the very least, we would let them know that we had taken them from the Dark Eye, and that here was our 10% levy to the Thieves Guild. And then that should mean that there would be no fallback from them, and we always know that there was going to be fallback from the Dark Eye, but that's okay because they started.
Yeah, and
I don't know if they'll see it that way, but
well, they started it, and they got a dose of their own medicine, literally, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
they did indeed.
Now, I think, I quite like the idea of hanging on to these for now. We know it's pretty hot property, and perhaps we could make some inquiries to find out who's maybe. I mean, I think Simpson's got it right. They've been raiding or they've been hitting other adventurers like us and robbing other folks who have been out in the wilderness finding things.
Mm.
And perhaps that's what got them attacking me. Perhaps this is their MO. They wait for you to go out into the wilderness, you come back into town, and then they turn you over for what you've found. Saves them from going out.
But yes, they were talking about going to the Hoon Hills.
Yeah, true. I reckon that's where they're... Because they left town, didn't they? And then they just get seen. So do they go robbing tombs in the Hoon Hills and then come back to town? Or their representatives come... No, because they're taking it out, aren't they? They're taking it out.
They did seem to be, yeah.
Unless they're on their way to see their fence or something. I mean, we don't know how long they've been in town. Or they just come into town, have their meet, and then, nah, not sure.
I certainly got the impression that they were planning on leaving now to go straight to the Hoon, and that they were bringing the sacks with them.
Yeah.
So, regardless, I can take care of this, and I motion to the stuff like the sealed, presumably cup, the massive chain with the emerald, and the other emerald as well. So I can take care of this while we figure this out, I guess. And do we sell the rest and give the guild some?
I don't think we need to give the guild anything for the rest.
Okay.
No.
I think just give some to the beggar, whose name I can't remember. To tie them over. Yeah. And then it might be useful to not be in town for the next few days.
Yeah. Well, I'm all geared up now. I'm ready. I'm ready when you guys are. We can head out. Maybe head down. Do you want to go and have a poke around where Hoon is, or?
Yeah, maybe if we should chance upon such an opportunity, we might waylay some of these people.
We need to find out what I'd like to know what they're up to. Yeah, again, yeah.
We could always go back to the tent and see what was going on.
Yeah, they got no reason to they got no reason to suspect us. It might be better if we got back there a bit sharpish.
See what they do. They're unlikely to find that wagon for quite some time.
I thought they would have left by now.
Yeah, they
might
at
least try and find their car. But if they're doing this on a regular period, then we could easily, cut in front of them, as it were.
Yeah, beat them at their own game, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Get some more of that Lotus stuff.
Well, it's expensive, but then we do have the swamps if we need them.
Why don't we head for the Hoon and see if we can find anything obvious down there while they're still in town?
Okay.
Because it'll probably be a day or two.
Well, they're going to be looking for these emeralds and try and finding them because they got nothing to go back to the Hoon for now, are they?
Yeah.
No.
So,
if we're right.
And it would probably be good that we weren't in town to be found with those emeralds.
Yeah. I was wondering about whether we should try and sort out a secure place outside of town where we could start maybe a stash.
Certainly it would be for something like this.
like one of these caves or something.
I think the caves are probably a good option, especially now that the wolves still inhabit the area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that would mean we wouldn't be found with it on it, and we could leave it there for a number of weeks.
I mean, it's a gamble, but you could say easy come, easy go sort of thing. We've chanced upon it. We don't want to be found with it in our possession, do we?
No.
Yes. Most of life is a gamble. So.
Okay.
Should we do that then? Should we swing back down towards, head out of town, head down towards Hoon, and take in some of that area where we found them wolves and where all them caves and that are in the hills?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, we can bury it or something.
Okay, so you guys are planning to leave the city and head to where you think the Hoon Hills are located. Is that correct?
Yeah, but we want to fence the small gems and whatever else first, I think.
Okay.
Or do we want to bury it all?
Well, gems are always handy, you know, because they're portable currency. I mean, we should probably just divide up the coin, so we've all got some money, and then we'll stash the emeralds and the gems, and it could be like our bank account.
Cool. Let's just do that. So,
unless anybody wants to do different, and
okay. So in terms of the actual like coinage you've got, like I say, there's 84 copper pieces, 89 silver pieces, and 86 gold pieces. You can divide that how you see fit.
But if we just take 20 each and the rest can just be to cover your expenditure today or whatever.
Okay. There's still something... I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but it is interesting how they get almost the exact same amount of gold, silver, and bronze, or copper, even copper pieces. Almost like it's a weight thing they need.
And just to let you know, guys, for convenience, if you were converting all of that to gold pieces, that would be 94 gold pieces, 17 silver, and 4 copper. So obviously you can divide that however you see fit. In terms of the smaller gems that you have, like I say, the larger ones, you think the fist size emerald on its own is worth 1,000. The one that's set in the bronze necklace, that's worth about 1,200 because of the extra light bronze. The smaller gems, you'd estimate copper. There's a couple that are worth about 50 gold pieces, and a much smaller one that's worth about 10.
Mm-hmm.
So about 12.50. Okay.
Okay, so like I say, obviously you guys can divide that however you see fit. What do you plan on doing next?
I think the Hoon Hills.
Yeah, we'll just swing by. Does anybody need to pick up some rations and stuff like that?
I'm good to go.
Yeah, I'll just pick up my employees and good to go.
Okay.
Okay, that is absolutely fine. So you guys start heading towards the Hoon Hills. So if one of you wants to move the pin in the map to where you're heading. Obviously each hex is a mile. You can do like 24 miles in a day.
Do we can we, was it 16012 where we had our encounters?
That's correct.
No, it was I thought it was 1711.
So here.
Was it?
I thought it was this one here.
Yeah, you're right. I think it was 1711. So yeah, so it'll be this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we think the Hoon Hills are down here, do we?
Yeah, you think the Hoon Hills are sort of in this direction.
Okay, so then I suggest we move into 1512, 1511, and then move down.
Okay, so you travel for a mile south of the city. You're heading towards the Darkling Hills at the minute. You're still on the open plains south of the city. There's no real encounter danger here because it's fairly sort of open plain. You'd see anything approaching you miles before it reached you. You can see the shallow sort of rolling dark green of the Darkling Hills to the south of you, and to the southwest you can make out where the hills sort of bleed into the southern reaches of the Orc's Blood Forest. So about here.
So off to the southeast, the Serpent Glade.
Yep.
That's the swampland where you find the Blue Lotus.
That's what you were told, yep.
Yeah, okay.
So should we move down to here, 1512, and then try and find a cave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a problem. The Darkling Hills, as I said previously, are sort of pockmarked with these caves. It's part of the reason the wildlife is so abundant here, because there's lots of like little streams for them to drink from, lots of caves for them to hibernate in, take shelter from the elements. So yeah, you easily find a small cave.
So that'd be nice. We're just a couple of miles outside of town.
I'll make as best as I can a treasure map for us.
Okay, and what exactly are you burying here?
We're burying both of the emeralds, with the chain and without.
Okay, so just the emeralds. Okay, no problems. Now, obviously, like I say, you found a cave, which means it's fairly sort of stony. So how are you sort of bury them? You could like dig it out, but it would take you quite some time, because obviously it's quite hard ground and quite stony inside a cave. So you could do it, but it would take you like quite a lot of the rest of the day to do it, because you'd have to like hack away at the stone, and unless you've got any specialist like picks and stuff like that, which I'm guessing probably not.
I've got a warhammer. That's
oh
all
yeah, you can certainly do it. Like say, it'll just take you a bit longer than it would do like just digging a hole in some soil and dropping them in.
I think we just look for like a fissure or something like that, so we don't have to disturb it, so it doesn't look like we've, we want it to look like nobody's been in here, don't we? Sort of. It wants to be quite subtle, maybe just a crack in the rock that we could just roll or carefully place a stone in front of it, so that it's just not casually discovered.
Yeah, you look around for about 10 minutes, and you do find at the back there's sort of like a crack in the stone wall. It's about sort of yay big, but not only really that wide, but it seems to be like quite deep. Like you could just about, so like if you got like a thin arm, you could just about squeeze your arm and you wouldn't be able to touch the back of it.
Mm-hmm. So we could put the stuff in like a sack and tie it up, and maybe just trail a bit of that old rope and just push it in a little bit, but lay a little bit of rope, so it's a little bit easier. If we're in a hurry, we could just grab it and tug it out, sort of thing, maybe, or that might not be.
Yeah, I have a sack to put them in, and Copper has that 10 foot of dodgy rope. That won't look out of place.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to put the emeralds in a sack, like tie the 10-foot rope around it, then like push it to the back of this fissure and just leave a little bit of rope so you could reach it and like pull it out.
Yeah, and maybe throw a bit of dirt and pebbles and that to cover the rope.
Yeah, there's plenty of small rocks lying around, like say like bits of dirt. You just pick them up and sort of use it to camouflage the rope. You spend probably best part of like an hour doing this. Obviously, you want to make sure it all looks undisturbed and you're taking your time about it.
Cover our footprints up and
But after you finish it and you're all stood at like the mouth of the cave, sort of looking to the back of it, if you didn't know it was there, you'd find it very difficult, unless you're like fully investigated the cave, to like notice there was anything untoward in there.
Cool. That's exactly what we want then. Nice.
Cool. So now should we move on to...
Okay, yeah, because you guys have spent some time doing this, you reckon you've probably got like another sort of 8 miles before it starts getting dark and you think you've got to make camp?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move down into this one and see what we can see.
Okay, no problem. Just give me a moment to reveal the hexes.
Simpson, how many dudes did you bring with you?
5 heavy footmen. So they have chainmail, they have shields, and they have swords. So, like previously, we had dirt farmers. This time, we actually have killers.
Okay. So whilst we were stashing our gear, obviously we kept them well away from our secret.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
We sent them on a stone gathering detail or something.
Yeah, probably like firewood.
Yeah, firewood. Yeah.
Okay, so as you guys have sort of like moved and you're just getting to like the peak of like the Darkling Hills and you're looking down over the other side of it, you can see it rolls down into plains and sparse woodland just to the south, sort of like here-ish. As you look further south, you can see another range of hills, the Hoon Hills here. You can, in this direction, sort of about here where the arrow's pointing, you can just about make out what appears to be some sort of fortress or a castle. It looks quite ruined, but you can't really see any details because obviously you're like a few miles away. But it appears to be set like on one of the taller hills. That's why you can see it.
I bet they've kind of occupied that. That's the sort of place I imagine these Tyrags hanging out.
I wonder how many there are.
I know, we could observe. We could get closer and... I mean, that's got to be a likely place, surely.
Okay, as you're having this discussion, obviously you're stood on like one of the taller hills so you can get like a good view over your surroundings. Samson, as you're sort of looking around, down about here where the arrow is pointing...
Okay, yeah.
So just sort of down here off the edge of this hex...
Yeah.
As you look in that direction, like I say, it's getting sort of fairly late now. The moon's started to rise. As you look in that direction, as the moon's light sort of shines down and the clouds clear briefly, you see what appears to be like a glint of something like silvery in that direction. But then the clouds roll across the moon again, and you can't see it anymore.
I think there might be. Because it's a couple of miles away.
Yeah, it must be quite big, whatever it is.
Yeah, so I point. Well, now it's like dark again, so it doesn't really. There's nothing there, but I point to the horizon, to the hills. I believe I saw over that way. That there's probably. I would guess it's a statue. There's a monument of shining metal, I think, of some kind.
It wasn't. You don't think it was water or something shining?
I guess it could be.
Maybe we should check it out, because if we went straight down to there, we could approach the fortress from the opposite direction, which would mean that we're less likely to bump into the dark eye moving back between the fortress and the city.
Do you think it could have been a signal, Simpson? Was it like flashing, like a... Because we're up on the hill there, perhaps we were seen.
I think you know more about this than I do. It sounds sensible. Do you think we should light a fire?
Because we've come through between these trees. It's almost like a pass. Could you describe it like that, John? Would you say? Would it be like a bit of a cut in through?
It's not so much of a pass. It looks more like the
hills rise up.
It looks more like the hills rise up, and there's like two sort of separate areas of woodland on either side.
Would you say that? Would we think we were like silhouetted against the skyline type of thing?
Not so much at the minute. I mean, if someone was specifically like looking for you, and they were close by, they'd probably see you when the clouds drift away from the moon. However, you're just like 4 plus like 5 mercenaries, like guys, all with like travelling clothes on. You're not like wearing like gleaming armour or like carrying like loads of torches, and you stood against dark hills. It'd be very difficult to pick you out from certainly from more than like a mile away, and even at a mile you'd be pushing it.
Okay, yeah.
It's certainly from the distance where Samson said he saw the sort of silvery glint from over there. Like, they'd have to have like ridiculously like enhanced vision to like see you from there.
Okay. So I'm not getting that impression.
No.
So should we step down into the plains? Because I think that's generally safer going. We could go like 14, 15, 16.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, straight south.
Yeah, and then to the hills.
Yeah. Start thinking about where we're going to hole up for the...
Okay, well, let me stop you there. Okay. So you guys have moved out of the Darkling Hills. You're heading across the plains. To your left as you're travelling, there is more pine forest, and you can see the Hoon Hills in front of you. Now, unlike the gently rolling Darkling Hills, these appear sort of quite jagged, that some of them almost look as though they're like on the scale of small mountains. It's certainly a good deal more rocky and more difficult terrain in the Hoon Hills, but it doesn't look impassable by any means, but it looks like it's not going to be the gentle stroll that you get on the rolling Darkling Hills.
And as we look southwest, John, does it look like that increases? Does it look like bigger mountains into the distance?
It doesn't. They don't look like they get to full scale sort of mountains. To be honest, but it does look as though the hills do sort of start like rising up. You suspect if you continue further, there may be some actual mountains beyond.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like in the hazy distance.
Yeah, you think it's possible given the way the hills are rising.
Yeah, so these could be like potential foothills.
You suspect if it were daylight, you'd be able to tell, but obviously your vision's limited at the minute.
Right, yeah.
So I suggest that we camp on the plains rather than the hills.
Yeah, because we're going to get a better warning of approach, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So you guys are camping on the plains. You start setting up your tents. Obviously, the mercenaries help you out with that. They start getting everything set up. Are you leaving the mercenaries on watch? Are you guys taking watches? It's up to you.
At least I am.
I'll be taking a watch.
I can take one too, yeah.
I'll be sleeping then.
Okay, no problems. So you drift off to sleep. You start taking your watches. That's absolutely fine. You all drift off to sleep. Happy days.
Yeah, that's right, Copper. You need your beauty sleep. That old charisma.
Thanks for that.
Need as much help as you can get. If you want to get yourself a nice big old black eye like this.
Okay, so you're all drifting asleep. Your mercenaries are taking their watches, etc. Okay, so Willava, You're woken up in the middle of the night. You woke up from a quite blissful sleep where you were dreaming about all of the magical things you're going to find out in this wasted world and all the arcane power it's going to grant you and how everyone's going to have to acknowledge the true genius of your magical potency. When you feel someone like shaking you and you open your eyes to see one of the mercenaries sort of leaning over you, and he says, "Sir, I don't want to alarm you, but I think I've seen some movement out there in the dock. I could be wrong, but..."
Okay, and where is the movement?
He points at some of the sort of low-lying like shrubs just where the hills start heading up, and he says, "From there, sir," he said, "I think I saw someone head out of the woodland near the hills. I only saw it for a moment, just as the moonlight shone down, so I could be wrong, but thought I'd rather wake you and it be nothing than not wake you and it be something, if you understand what I say, sir."
I do. And how big was it?
About man size, sir.
Okay.
About as big as me, he says, and he's like an average, like 4'6" or whatever.
Okay.
Says I caught a brief flash of white, but difficult to tell. Says he points up at the sky and he says, "As you can see, it's a cloudy night, so he said vision's quite limited."
Okay. And what time is it?
It's about 11 in the evening now.
Okay. So I will just stay awake with him for an hour and see if there's any more signs of this creature.
Okay. As you stay awake with the mercenary and you're sort of both peering into this, obviously you've got I presume you've got lanterns or whatever set up in your camp, but the light only extends so far. As you're peering into the distance, though, for a brief moment the clouds drift away from the moon and the scene in front of you is illuminated with silvery light. Now you can see more clearly. You can see that, as Silas suggested before he went to sleep, beyond the hills there is like a jagged mountain range rising in the distance. However, your attention is drawn towards what appears to be a small figure running towards you. You strain your eyes to see, and as you look you can see it appears to be a man sort of running towards your camp. He's wearing ragged clothes that looks almost as if it's been torn to bits, like there's just shreds of clothing hanging off him. He looks absolutely terrified, and he's glancing over his shoulder, and he's running as though the devil himself were behind him. As he starts getting a little bit nearer, I mean, you can just about make out in the distance his voice going, "Help! Somebody help! Help!"
So I will wake Silas fairly gruffly and tell him to get up, that something is coming.
Yeah, I'll jump up, grab my shield.
Get the mercenary to wake the rest, and how far away is the man from us?
He's probably about half a mile away.
Okay.
It's going to take him a little while to get to you.
Okay, so then I guess we will wait and see if anything comes after him.
Okay, you watch him as he's sort of getting a bit closer. Presumably he's seen the lights of your camp. Everything goes... You don't see anything chasing after him. However, then the clouds roll back over the moon and the scene is plunged into darkness. You can still just about make out his voice "Oh, somebody help me!" Getting louder as he's obviously getting closer.
Okay, I'll come out to where Will Avery is. I've picked up my stuff. Obviously, haven't had time to don my armour. Got a short bow, arrow knocked. Yeah, what's going on? Where is it all going off, Will? Where is it? Sort of spin round to the sound.
There's a guy running towards us. He seems like he's being chased, but it also all looks a little suspicious. So I suggest we wait and see what he has to say when he arrives.
Can we see anything in pursuit at this point?
You can't at the minute, but like I say, with the clouds over the moon, it's very difficult. I mean, you can't even really see the man at the minute. You can just hear him getting closer.
All right, I'll just start making some inroads towards the guy, bearing in mind what Will has said. I'll just go right up. I'll be careful. I'm just gonna get a bit closer, see if I can see anything pursuing him.
Are you taking like a torch with you or anything, or?
No, I'm just going in. I'm gonna try and be in stealth mode. I haven't got my armor on, and I just
roll me a d6.
Maybe go a little to one side. I'm gonna fan out to my left a little bit.
Okay, roll me a d6.
Four.
Okay, you fan out to the left a bit, and as this sort of fellow starts like running past you, you can see he appears to be a young-looking man. He's got his eyes are wide. He looks absolutely terrified. His hair's like long and greasy. His clothes are little more than rags hanging to him. He keeps like looking over his shoulder. He's running as fast as he possibly can. Now you're close, you can see that like he's splattered with blood.
Jesus.
If you've ever seen like the scenes in like Carrie when like they tip the blood on her, he looks like that.
Wow, that's a bit irregular.
Now you're a bit closer, you can hear him, and he's like, "Somebody help me! Somebody, anybody, please! It's gonna get me! Somebody help me!"
And there's nothing following him that we can see.
You like look into the distance behind him. You can't see anything. You can't hear anything.
It's off his head. Something sent him mad. He's been playing Call of Cthulhu.
So before he casts terrible eldritch spells at us, John, you said he has like a long mane of hair.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Copper and Samson. Now he's got closer. You could have woken up because you've heard him shouting if you wish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does this person look like they've especially like lived in a cave? Like, is it the sort of deal where like he has this like long matted greasy like caveman hair, and what about the beard? Like, is he?
Yeah, he's got a long beard.
I don't think we should accept this person to our fire this night. I whispered to Copper properly because we're like in the back because we woke up last.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who survives here and is covered in blood and is alone at night running about is probably not going to be a friend.
It's not the sort of thing you'd put on your CV, is it? Pastimes, running around in the wilderness covered in blood.
Okay, it's probably going to take him about like 10 minutes to like reach where you guys are, so you've got like a little bit of time to.
Yeah, I'll share my suspicion with everyone. It's like whispering about the fact that there's so many things here that line up with like one of the old curses. Is a lone person at night covered in blood, looking like they basically live like an animal in the wild. I don't like this.
So what should we do?
I suppose there's no stopping him.
And I'm still not seeing anything, John. I mean, I could stop him with the old-fashioned arrow, but it seems a bit drastic.
You're still not seeing anything chasing him. Although, like I say, you keep seeing this guy look over his shoulder, and he looks absolutely terrified. You can see there's like a bit of like spittle on his beard. His eyes are like wild and staring. He looks like he's absolutely scared out of his wits.
And I can't hear anything. I can't see anything other than this loon legging it across the plains.
That's it.
Wow. Right, I'm going to stand down and return to the camp.
Not a problem. You return to the camp. You can see Samson and Copper are up now.
I suggest you get your armor on, boys, and I would like to call out to this guy.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Not come any closer.
Okay.
And to explain what's chasing him.
Can you create some kind of big booming voice to maybe scare him off?
No, I only have one spell, and that's not it.
It's not the big booming voice spell?
No.
A load of...
This is not none of your 5e cantrip nonsense. Alas.
It would be 5 or 6 levels before I'm useful in any way, shape, or form.
Busting out the prestidigitation. You there, you hold.
Does he acknowledge the shout in any way?
As he sort of hears your voice, he tries to like go to a stop, but he stumbles and he actually like falls over and he sort of rolls to where he's like lying on the floor. It basically looks as though he was running so fast, not really paying attention to where he's going. Then he's heard the voice, he's tried to pull to a stop, like tripped over a rock or something, and like.
The world is populated by nutters.
Okay.
He lies on the ground, so like picks himself up a little bit, and he's like, "Please, please, the woods, it's going to get me."
The what is going to get him?
I think he said the woods, like the trees.
Okay.
I sort of take a look at the blood on him. Is it like, are there any wounds on him, or is it literally something has spat blood? Or is...
You can't see any obvious wounds on him.
How did you get like that?
He's like, oh, I went into the woods. The woods. The bigger on the inside.
Well, you're not in the woods anymore. Not for miles.
He like looks around as though he's like noticing like where he is for the first time.
What's your name?
He says, I don't remember. I used to know.
I'm sort of like sizing this guy up and like holding my warhammer like sort of like halfway behind my back, just like I could just
give him a gentle tap to remind him, jog his memory.
Yeah, I'm not hiding the fact that I think this guy is very bad news.
Yeah, I actually look to you and say, so is that a curse? Blood and trees and stuff?
Did you say to me?
Yeah.
I think there's a strong possibility. Who lives here alone in these plains and these woods looking like that? Covered in who knows what blood that is. This doesn't there's no way to make this look good.
It doesn't bode well.
It's probably some sort of flesh-eating curse, judging by the blood.
As Silas says, this doesn't bode well. The strange, demented-looking individual doubles over as though in extreme pain. He lets out like a gasp or like a groan, like say, of agony, and like falls to his knees, doubled over.
Yeah, I immediately like raise my warhammer, just ready to like, yeah. Are you gonna go all monster on us, or?
As you're thinking that, the clouds drift away from the moon, and the guy looks up at you, and you see his eyes are yellow with like black slitted pupils.
Yeah, I'm a.
It's hammer time.
I'm a wallop him in the head if I can.
Okay, make your attack roll.
Wallop, love it.
Let's see how it's clobbering time.
Keen wallop.
There we go. Warhammer. AC 8.
Okay, you swing out with your warhammer towards him. As you do, he reaches up without looking. He reaches up with a hand and just like grabs hold of the hasp of your, like the haft of your warhammer, and like arrests it mid swing.
Mm-hmm.
And as he does so, you can see like the skin on his hand started to like split open and slough away from his arm, and you can see like dark fur matted with blood underneath it as like his skin starts to peel off.
Yep. I'm not letting go of the hammer though. So like I'm holding like a hammer. I'm trying to like push it down, and he's just holding it there.
I'm gonna get out my dagger immediately and just try and stab him in the throat just as quickly as I can.
Okay, go for it. Make your attack roll.
Okay. Just a regular attack, presumably.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you have hit him. You stab him in the side. As you do so, you sort of like shave off a portion of his skin, which is already like falling off and dropping off him in like bloody chunks. And again, you can see this like fur underneath. He looks over towards you, and almost this like growl comes out of his throat, Copper, and you can hear this sort of cracking of bones and snapping of muscles as his face starts to extend, and what appears to be like almost like a wolfish snout bursts out through his face, like leaving tattered and bloody fragments of human skin on his face.
Oh, it's one of them.
Do we know about this stuff, John?
You might assume it's some sort of curse.
Okay.
Such things tend to like not be encountered in the last city.
No. No,
That's one of the hyena people.
Does it look like the hyena that we've seen?
It looks more vulpine, not vulpine, it looks more lupine, more wolfish than a hyena.
Okay.
Can I cast magic missile at it?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna laugh when like you cast your missile, he just picks it up and throws it back at you.
Okay, so that's your damage roll.
And an ice bolt flies out and hits him, hopefully.
Oh shit,
okay.
Max damage.
It strikes him square in the chest. He falls backwards, releasing your Warhammer, Simpson, and rolls over. As he does so, he starts like rising to his feet. The last of his like human skin sloughs away, and you're now faced with this strange like, bipedal wolf-like creature covered in fur with like massive fangs, slick blood covering it, and these gnarled talons. The most disquieting thing is, as this transformation is occurring, the voice of the man continues like shouting for help and asking for you to help him until his face transforms as Copper's like shanking him, and then the voice lowers, becoming deeper at first until it just becomes this enraged wolfish growling.
Nasty.
Okay, everyone else has gone this turn. Silence.
Jab at him with my spear. Try and run him through the chest. Ooh.
Okay, make your attack roll. Okay, you go to jab him with your spear, and with almost
no, that's a strength check.
Yeah, that's not an attack roll. You need to go on your sheet for your attack roll.
Yeah, no, I just clicked the 20 by strength. Yeah, why did I do that? Yeah. Boom, there. So.
There we go.
Hits AC 6.
Okay, no problems there. The description stays the same. You go to jab him with your spear, and with almost inhuman reflexes, it leaps back. Now, it is going to take a swipe at you with these huge gnarled talons. Luckily for you, obviously as it leapt back to avoid your spear swipe, its swipe is now like a couple of inches away from your face, but you feel like the air pressure changes. Its claw goes in front of your face, and a few splats of blood like hit you on the side of the face.
Okay,
so it's taken its go. So Samson, what are you doing? In fact, no, we should probably ask for everyone to roll initiative at this point.
Initiative.
So you won't be able to use... Actually, let me just... Okay.
So our map marker is going on 4.
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh,
is it our dex bonus, is it?
Yeah, I was going to say, just give me a second. I'll stick people's characters on there so you can click on them.
Oh, I see. You're putting them on the map.
Yeah. Okay, so if you click on your token and then hit the roll initiative macro.
Yeah, I've already rolled it and I got a 4, but you hadn't put the things out yet.
That's fine. Just click on your token and roll. Click on the roll initiative again, and I'll whiz the 4 over.
Hold on, there's 2 Will Avers, John.
Well, you know, 1 will Ava's not enough.
Does that mean I get a second spell?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Nice try. Okay, there you go.
Sound.
And are we rolling for the mercenaries, or are you just going to go with Samson?
Yeah, I'll just go with Samson.
Also, did we have I healed? What's the healing situation?
You will have gained a hit point back each.
Okay.
Okay, so it's Samson to the plate first.
Yeah. I'm going to back off and yell to my mercenaries, Get him! Chop its head off.
Okay, not a problem. Your mercenaries all surround it. So do you want to make attack rolls for your mercenaries?
Yeah, can do. So I'll just roll all 5 in a row and we'll see how that goes.
Okay, it's AC 5.
Okay, so first 7, 4. Yeah, these guys are not getting rehired. 13, and come on, Bobby. So 16.
Okay. So let me just check that. So what's the THACO of the mercenaries?
Let's see if they actually have one.
Are they first level fighters, John?
There's no the stats that I get are what weapons they have, what AC they have, what's their morale.
You don't know what level they are?
Yeah, we'll go with first level 5 to them.
19 THACO then.
Okay. So let me just check that.
So they need a 14.
It hits AC 5.
Yeah. And well, I rolled a 16, so it's one of them got it.
Yeah.
So I'll roll for the damage. They have a sword. 1 damage. All of 1 point.
Okay, so your mercenaries storm in. There's the clattering of swords as this thing sort of like knocks them asunder and sort of dodges their blows. One of your mercenaries manages to nick it shallowly on the shoulder, and you see blood running out into the fur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm staying well behind them.
Of course.
Because I'm the boss.
Okay, no problems. So we'll move on to Copper.
Whatever makes you feel better. So I'm going to draw my short sword because obviously damage is a bit imperative at this point. I'm going to try and get behind it just while your mercenaries are helping at the front, just to flank it.
Okay, go for it.
With this kind of system, does a short sword still count for backstabbing, or would it just be a regular attack?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, lovely. Where is it again? There we go.
Nice.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, you dive behind this thing as it's engaged with the mercenaries, and you jab your sword up into its chest. There's a rasp of escaping air as you believe you've punctured one of its lungs. The thing falls down to like a knee, but it's still fighting like a rabid beast. But you're pretty sure, Copper, that it's not long for this world.
Good.
Nice.
Okay, well over.
Now, do I think that I could throw a dagger at this and not hit anyone else if I missed, or
yeah? Because I mean, because Copper's behind it, the mercenaries have also been knocked away from it by the creature flailing around. So yeah.
Okay, so I will try and throw a dagger at it and see. AC 5 for 3
Okay,
damage.
describe how you finish off this lycanthropic creature with your thrown dagger.
So as it's kind of roaring because it's just been stabbed in the chest, the dagger flies in to its open mouth and just kind of collapses the back of its throat, and it just kind of coughs, kind of gurgles a bit, and then kind of falls over dead.
Indeed, and that is exactly what happens. As it topples to the ground again, the clouds obscure the moon, and the whole scene is plunged into darkness. The last thing you see before everything goes dark is this like creature falling to the ground with his dagger sticking out of its face.
Good shot, sir. Well done, Will, my old mate. I think you may have been hasty taking up magic. You perhaps should have joined the circus with shots like that.
Yes, maybe I should have.
We'll have a word of old Ulrich. He'll put a good word in for you. You can do a turn at the tent.
Sure you will. So I would like to claim what's left of my dagger and go back to sleep.
Okay, as you go to pick your dagger out again, the moon is briefly uncovered, and as it shines down on the scene, you can see that where before there was this beast, now there's just like a tiny, frail little like, old man with a beard, with like a dagger sticking out the side of his face and like wounds on him, sort of lying there. You pull the dagger out of his face, not a problem.
I do, yeah. It's like whatever. That's weird. But now I need to go to sleep.
Yeah, you guys, you know more about this stuff than me. What do you think? Do we need to do something with this? It's not likely to spring back up to life or anything when the moon shines on him again.
I'm like taking a grim look at my mercenary guys.
Yeah, they're all standing around looking a little bit sheepish and embarrassed, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm like motioning at the beast, at my warhammer, and it's like it's better to be safe out here. So
the cleansing flame.
I have this hammer. You people have swords, so, and I sort of like gesture like hack it to pieces. Go.
Okay, the mercenaries move in and they basically entirely dismember this body, like hacking it into like tiny chunks. Until so as they're finishing, it looks like basically someone's exploded in this area. There's like blood everywhere. There's like a finger lying over there. There's like an eyeball lying on a rock there.
Nice.
Yeah, that's subtle, real subtle, guys.
I propose that we treat every individual that we encounter here, at least this far away from the city. I think Johan. Yes, with extreme suspicion, because this is the way that they are apparently. Groups might be different. Individuals, especially individuals covered in blood.
Starting to think some of these old wives' tales have got some truth in them.
Yeah, there's a reason why they call it the last city. There's very few sensible people outside.
As you're having this conversation, the mercenaries are finishing their bloody work. One of them walks over to you, Samson, and he says, "Sir, found this tucked in his belt," and he holds up what appears to be it looks like a scrap of leather or something like that that's folded over.
It's like a leather pouch thing.
It looks more like just like a tiny square of leather that's been sort of folded
okay. It's just
over.
yeah. So I'll.
He holds it out towards you.
Yeah, I'll unravel it.
Okay, you unravel it. It's only about this sort of A5 size, effectively. You unfold it, and it appears that something's been written on the back of it. Although the worst thing is you can't precisely identify what animal this leather comes from, which is quite worrying. But you can see on the back of it, in what looks to be dried blood, someone has written, "Beware the forests of madness, the trees move. People and the trees change."
People and the trees, or people in the trees?
People and the trees.
People and the trees.
Then at the bottom in a ragged hand it just says, "Bigger on the inside."
Oh yeah.
That's what you said before he died.
Yes.
And this guy came from which direction?
He originally came from the sort of woodlands over here, and then he sort of ran in this direction, saw you guys, and sort of ran up in this direction.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, going to the Hoon Hills. Good idea. Southeast.
Not so much.
Yes. Probably careful when we eventually decide to move into the Serpent Glades. Careful not to go too far south, because that might be the end of us. Okay, well, that goes into the folder of details that we know.
The evidence bag.
Yes. And we probably continue our restful sleep in this slaughterhouse now.
Indeed, in this charnel scene that you've created.
I'm sorry it always ends up this way when I'm playing clerics.
It's fine, man. You do you, man. Okay, so
more than in Shadows of Estrin.
Okay, so since we're sort of getting to the end of the session now, guys, you've got a decision to make. Obviously, if you wish, as we did previously, you can return to the city, pay for food and board, do a bit of carousing, etc. Or you can choose to camp in the wilderness and push on. Obviously, you've not got to pay any money for camping in the wilderness, but there may potentially be more encounters at the start of the next session, because you're sort of out in the wilderness. You're surrounded by blood and lots of other stuff that animals can quite easily smell. So it's entirely up to you guys.
I'm inclined to camp.
Same.
Yeah. I guess we could camp.
Okay, so if you all agree that you're going to camp in the wilderness, you start settling down for the evening, planning to push on to the Hoon Hills and perhaps the castle belonging to the Dark Eye in next session. So thank you very much for playing, guys. We're going to wrap up there. I'll tot up the XP and sort of post that in the Facebook group or something similar between this session and the next. So hope you all enjoyed the game, guys. Thank you very much for playing.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you.
And thank you to anyone who's watching either now or in the future. We will hopefully see you soon. I'm going to end the recording here. Take care.